Alright, and welcome to part 3 of this tutorial, where we will get this piece ready to send to the printers. Depending on how you're going to have this printed will greatly depend on how you prepare the file. A lot of places can take just a PDF, which I'll go through the steps of creating that. Some places you can send a packaged InDesign file, which is actually greatly preferred because you don't lose any of the graphics and they print as absolutely as high quality as possible. So I will start off showing you how to do a packaged PDF. So what you'll want to do is, once you've got your design finalized, as you can see I've got mine finished up here and ready to go. Again, I will be having mine printed locally at a local print shop where they would rather have it multiple business cards to a page rather than just one. So I already did that work for them. I also set up the crop marks so that they know where to cut each piece to properly separate the business cards and have them all be the right size. Okay, so to package our document, what you're going to want to do is, if you haven't, you'll want to save it. Make sure that you're going to, because what packaging does is actually it creates a separate file and it gathers all of the images, all of the fonts, all of any assets that you used to create the piece. It will gather those into one convenient file, which you can then either you can compress the file and email it to whoever you need to, or you can put it on a jump drive and take it to your print shop. Either way, it's really the best way to go because it gathers everything into one convenient spot. You don't have to worry about your fonts transferring over because it packages those, it makes font files for those, so if your printer doesn't have the font that you're using, then you can give it to them. So what you'll do is, I'll go back, you go to File and Package, which is also Shift-Control-Command-P. That's a lot of stuff to remember, but yeah. And it brings up this dialog box. Now you can kind of go through here and check out everything. It also does all of your pre-flighting. You can check and make sure all of your images are going to be correctly linked and are going to have enough resolution to print well, which all of mine will. Print settings, all of that stuff. I usually use the default settings for this because it's really the easiest way to go. As you can see, it's giving me a little bit of an error here that some of my photos are using the RGB color space, which I can actually fix that easier once I've packaged the document. That way I don't ruin my original files by changing them to CMYK. So I'm going to ignore that for now and come back to it. And so we will go ahead and click Package. It comes up with this instructions file. You can include your name, what company you work for, address, all of that stuff if you want to have all of that information available to your printer. I usually skip it because I know my printer fairly personally. Next, it brings up your directory, where you're going to save the file. I'm actually going to save my packaged file inside the other file that I was working from so that all of it is together and I only have to manage one folder if I ever move this folder, because right now, as you can see, it's just saved on my desktop right here. So I'm going to leave that. I usually take, instead of the text folder that it puts on there, I usually do an underscore packaged. And that way I know that that's the packaged version. And I'm going to tell it to copy the fonts, copy the link graphics, and update all the links. And so what that does is it basically tells the new document that it's about to create where the new versions of the images are saved. And after all that stuff, we'll just click Package, And it's going to tell me that I'm using some fonts, yada yada. This is a pretty standard warning. Basically, it's a copyright thing for any fonts. If you've downloaded any fonts illegally or whatever, which I haven't, I'm using all public domain fonts, so I don't have to worry about that. And what it does is it copies all of your links and saves a different file. And then it is done. Kind of. There we go. And it's done. And so you'll actually want to close out of that because the file that you had open is still your old one. Now, what I'll do in order to fix that error message that it was giving me before, I will go into here. You can go into your links folder. As you can see, the links is where it puts all of your images that you used. And the fonts folder, document fonts, obviously, that's where it puts all your fonts. I only had one. And so let's see, this is going to be the image that was giving me that error. So what I'll just, pretty simple, take it into Photoshop. Okay, and we've got our image. And this is the one, as you can see, it's in RGB color mode. Since this is a print project, we want to convert it to CMYK. That's a fairly simple conversion. It's going to ask me if I want to convert. I want to say yes, and I don't want to ever see that again. I just downloaded new versions of all my software, so that's why it's asking me all these error things. And so once I've got that converted, I'll just save that file. And since I went into the version that was inside my links folder, I still have my original out here. This is my original file for that image, and it's still in RGB. So if I wanted to put that on the web for some reason, I could. So then we'll go back into my packaged. We'll open that up, and as you can see, it knows that I modified that image. And what I'll do is just click Update Links. It updates all of the versions of that image. And now I have no problems. All of my stuff is in CMYK color mode, which is the best, which will give you the best reproduction for printing. And that is how you package a document. Another option you could do if you were sending it, say, via email or something and you had a little bit larger file, you can export the document, and you definitely don't want to do an interactive PDF because this is for print, so you select Adobe PDF for print. And you'd either want to select high quality print or press quality. I find that these give you the best image quality when you're printing. It's just a good way to do it. And since I set up all my own crop marks, and the document size that I'm using is actually letter size, I don't want to include any of the crop or bleed, any of that stuff. I can double check my output here. And again, everything looks fairly good. I usually just leave it on its standard, the press quality. It gives you a good quality piece, You can also use high quality print. It also gives it a very good piece. This one just doesn't do any color conversion, so that's one difference. If you need it to convert colors, you can set it to a number of different options. And other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory working your way through these options. Usually I leave them at the defaults because Adobe knows what they're doing, and it knows that you want to create the best file possible. And so you just click Export, and you can see you've got your PDF. And you always want to double check your PDF before you send it. Oh, I know what I did. I tried to open it before my program was done exporting it. I actually make that mistake quite often. So I'm going to have to re-export that file. I'm just going to save. I'm actually going to close it because you briefly saw a little error message pop up, which I'll show you again here in a second what that does. I will go export again, Adobe PDF print. I'm going to overwrite that old file, high quality print, export, and if you hit W, it brings up this box which basically says it's working in the background, it'll close automatically when it's done. And that's, you have to wait until that goes away to try and open your file. That's the mistake that I just made. And once it's done, you can open up your file and just double check everything. I want to see all of it. So click that to view the whole thing. Everything looks good. I can see my crop marks very well. Go down to the next page. Everything looks good there. And again, I can see all my crop marks. They show up the right way. And so everything looks pretty good. And so that file would be ready to send to the printer if you were sending it somewhere farther away, or you didn't have time to drop off an actual file. You could email that or send it through Google Drive or however you want to do it. So I hope you have enjoyed these 3 business card tutorials, and I hope they were useful. Please make sure to thumbs up and subscribe, because I'm going to continue making a lot of really great and valuable information available on this channel. And I hope you have a great evening. Good night, everybody.